financial problems, elder law, tax problems, business matters, divorce, personal injury, bankruptcy, your life, your reality. Life is complicated. There is the law and there is reality. Welcome to Law and Reality, sponsored by Thav Gross. Now here's your host, Ken Gross.
Good morning. Welcome to this segment of Law and Reality. In the last segment, we discussed Bill, who had a complicated tax problem, and he kind of laid that problem out in front of Jenny and David. And I'm Bill. We're doing this as a role play event. I want to summarize for you where we're at on Bill's problem going into this segment, and now we're going to focus on how we solve the problem. Here's my situation. I'm Bill. I haven't filed my taxes since 2010. I had a failed coffee business that closed in 2012. I owe payroll taxes from the coffee business for 2011 and 2012. I owe payroll taxes for my current business, which is a landscape business that I started in 2013. I haven't paid any payroll taxes in for 2013, 2014, and now half of 2015. I owe income taxes and self-employment for 2012 through 2014 once my returns are prepared and we figure out how much I owe. I have $200,000 in my 401k. My wife, Bethany, who was not involved in the businesses, makes $175,000 a year as an internist. She has $350,000 in her 401k. I'm worried about her being affected by all this because if she is, she's going to throw my you-know-what out on the you-know-where, and I don't really want that to happen because I love her and my children very dearly. So I've come to Thav Gross, to Jenny Lingle, to David Einstandig to save me from this problem. I'm extremely nervous and upset about it and embarrassed by it and concerned as to whether there's a solution because the problems are enormous. I'm also being sued by the landlord on the best coffee lease for 3 years of unpaid rent, and I owe $100,000 in credit cards that I used to fund the coffee business before it brewed out. You like that, brewed out? Play on words there. So, my analysis, I need some help. I've been watching on TV, and even your commercial said I can come in, do an offer and compromise, and settle my tax debt for pennies on the dollar. So here I am. I got $2,000. I want to give that to the government, call it square. Everybody goes home. Everybody's happy. How's that sound?
Well, the first thing that an offer and compromise looks at is...
Can we do that?
I'm going to explain that.
Okay. I will listen.
The first thing they're going to look at is your 401k. And you have two...
They can look, but do not touch.
Okay, but for an offer and compromise, part of the calculation will be 70% of your 401k, which would be $140,000 here. And the reason is that they allow you to leave 30% to pay the taxes.
Wait. I said I wanted to pay $2,000 to get rid of what do we figure? I owe probably around $300,000 in taxes here.
With the landscape
between
business,
payroll
probably.
taxes, income taxes, self-employment taxes.
The reality is you probably owe a lot more for other business-related issues, but the bottom line is we want to get a sense with the government, with the revenue officer, that we're being proactive in taking things under control. We don't want any referrals to justice. We don't want any referrals anywhere else. If you show that you're doing something positive to voluntarily comply,
wait.
they'll leave you
What do you
alone.
mean referral to justice? What do you suggest?
The not filing
there?
of the returns. If we're not cooperating and they issue a summons for the returns, and we still don't provide the returns, or we don't show up for the summons with the documentation to prepare the returns, they'll issue what they call a last chance summons, which basically means if you you don't attend that, and I've got one of these next week, and bring the returns with you, they can refer you to the Department of Justice for criminal.
Well, we
so
don't
Bill,
want that. Let's get the
what we've
returns
done is we worked with the revenue officer, and we got a timeline. That's what we did. They gave us what they call a summary of contact. So at this point, let's pretend that we have the 941s prepared, and we're looking to do the 1040s.
I understand. Can we go back a little bit, though? I want to make sure. So what about my idea of doing the offer and compromise for $2,000?
I was explaining that to you, Bill. So the first thing they're going to look at is the $200,000, and they're going to want 70% of that. An offer and compromise is really like preparing a tax return. It's a math formula. The next thing we're going to look at is the equity in your home. They're going to look at
my wife owns the home.
Well, you both own the home based on the earlier facts.
Yeah, but she's the one. I haven't been making any money, so she's been making the payments, so I think of it as her home.
What they'll look
and my kid's home.
Is they'll take 80% of the fair market value, they'll subtract out the remaining debt on the mortgage.
That's $320,000.
And then they will...
Plus $200,000 would be...
$120. Then they'll divide that by 2 because your wife is
60.
entitled to half of her equity. So they would add the 60 to the 140. So now
That's
we're at
200.
$200,000 for an offer. The next calculation we have to do is an income expense calculation. And unfortunately, Bethany's income will come into play here. It's not that they can garnish her or levy her, but what they're going to do is they're going to figure out household income.
Oh, man. There's a word that I'm thinking of that starts with a F and ends with a D in terms of where I stand on this thing.
Well, so we're
That's
an offer
screwed
and compromise.
would be the word on TV.
Offer and compromise is not likely going to work for you. So we're going to cross that off our list for now.
So you mean, how come I see on TV and it says you can always do an offer and compromise? Are they lying?
Well, there's people who are always willing to take your money to file an offer and compromise, yes, but we're not going to take your money at Thav Gross to file something that we know is going to be rejected.
Jenny, I got to chime in, though, because you ruled out, obviously, that an offer and compromise is way too much money and not the desired
Well, it's like $200,000. I don't have $200,000.
I'm looking through the paperwork that you came in because you came in with your file, even though nothing's in order. And I see that
I'm sorry things were not in order. If you would have told me to put them in order, I would have done that for you. But I was a little bit nervous about my problem.
If every client came in and had everything in order, I'd have nothing to do. But I could tell you, I see this piece of paper here, and it's a deed where it says that you transferred your house to your wife. Now, it doesn't have any recording stamps on it. I'm a little concerned that this did get recorded.
Oh, you found that piece of paper. It seems to me a few minutes ago that you were saying that there was no guarantee in the facts, and now you're coming up with this deed that we don't even know about. There's no deed in the outline here.
I want to make sure.
Let's hope it wasn't filed.
Make sure. Did you send this and take it down to the Register of Deeds?
Not yet, no.
Okay, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to rip this piece of paper up, because the last thing you want to do is transfer that house to your wife.
This piece of paper?
Rip it up. Rip it up. Absolutely, because you could have just lost the equity in your home.
Well, thank you for telling me that. Now, not only have I ripped up the deed, but also the schedule for the show.
Nobody knows.
It's devastating, the effects of debt and foreclosure on you and your family. There is a solution.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem. Some fear the word bankruptcy, but in reality, it's a strategy to save your home and to eliminate debt. If you're in financial trouble, timing is critical. You need to take action now. We've been saving homes and eliminating debt for over 33 years.
Call Thav Gross, 888-235-HELP. Carrying too much debt? Resolve your debt. Call Thav Gross.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call Thav Gross. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
A lifetime of hard work. If you don't have the right plan in place, you can lose your home, your savings, and more. And you didn't come this far to lose everything. Samasco Law wants you to know that laws are changing. Today, the average cost of nursing home care is $85,000 a year. With proper planning, we can help protect your life savings and get you the Medicaid and nursing home benefits you deserve.
How much can you afford to lose? Call Samasco Law today.
If you're retired and in a financial crisis, there is a way out.
It pains me when I see a retired couple exhaust their savings by paying credit card bills and for a home hopelessly underwater.
Thav Gross specializes in helping retired people in financial crisis.
You just can't keep paying until you're broke. You need to address the problem now.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem. All right, welcome back. So we're dealing with Bill's tax problem. I'm Bill. David and Jenny are the lawyers and experts addressing the problem. Before we came back to the break, David pointed out the importance that I had prepared a deed, and I was thinking about transferring my ownership in the house to my wife and the kids because I knew I had this tax problem. I hadn't recorded it. David spotted that and said, tear it up. We tore it up. Here's the deed right here. It's gone. There's a lesson to be learned here, and the lesson is the worst thing you can possibly do is start trying to do things yourself, thinking that you can outfox the government and cover up your tracks and make things uncollectible, because there are remedies and rules that apply to these things that could make things much worse. They're never going to make it better. The proper thing to do is you need to seek proper consultation and advice so that you make the right moves, not the wrong moves, which become fatal. And had that deed been recorded, it would have been irreversible at that point.
Not only irreversible, but all of your other creditors, which are in six figures, would now be fair game to at least half of the equity in the house.
That would be the credit card companies and the landlord.
And anyone else out there who you don't realize.
And the IRS would file a nominee lien against Bethany, and although that would really only be for the portion, your $60,000 equity in that house, when it gets reported to the credit reporting agencies, it's really going to hurt Bethany's credit.
I need Bethany's credit to stay good because that's what we're going to be living off of, because mine is shot, and she'll kill me besides that. So we don't want that to happen. Now, let's move on. So to summarize what you told me before, I've been watching all these commercials about an offer and compromise, thinking I might be able to just settle this debt for nothing. But the bottom line is, because I have money, I have the 401k, I lose 70% of that. I lose half of my equity. I lose my equity in the house with a 20% discount for selling costs. That goes right into the offer and compromise from the beginning. So offer and compromise is probably only a good deal if I don't have any assets. Would that be the normal situation?
Well, it could be, but let's say he didn't have any income and his offer and compromise was $200,000, but he owed $600,000.
He is me. I'm Bill.
I'm sorry, Bill. You keep switching back and forth here.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bill. So, Bill, if you owe $600,000 and you anticipate to going back to work and being successful, a $200,000 offer and compromise might be in your best interest.
Yeah, if I win the lottery, it'd be great. That's terrific.
But
I got to buy a ticket.
The situation right now,
I don't have any money to buy a ticket.
But Bill, the reality is,
Bill.
There are alternatives.
I'm stressing here.
There are
very stressed out.
There are alternatives. That alternative exists, but it may not be the best alternative. What we got to do is figure out what else.
Well, let's move
on.
Let's talk about the returns. I get these returns once they're prepared. Bethany hasn't filed her returns either. Are we filing joint returns? What are we doing here?
You might be. I want to see married filing separate and married filing joint returns. Now, here's the issue. Filing jointly with Bethany will not make her liable for the business trust fund taxes. For the payroll taxes. However, some of these years you may have only made $30,000. So if you file married filing jointly, and since Bethany had a high income, maybe she was having significant withholding, and if you're claiming both the children, it's possible that you might still break even or be due a refund. In that case, we might say it's in your best interest to married filing jointly for that particular year, which is why we're going to look at the returns. And most CPA software will show you married filing separate versus married filing liability.
But it's not just math. You got to make sure that if you're taking certain deductions, because you're talking about putting it on your Schedule C, where they both would be liable for the tax.
That's correct.
It's got to be It's got to be a legitimate return.
Correct.
Legitimate expenses. And after we analyze that with your CPA, or we hook you up with somebody that we trust, we sit down.
I don't want any hookers. No, I've got enough problems going on right now. I don't want any hookers.
Okay. That's fine, Bill.
I couldn't resist that.
Yeah, Bill's like every other client, right?
Pretty much, yes.
No, the bottom line is, if legitimately there's modest tax liabilities on actually filed returns, we would consider a joint return. But if there's any remote chance that doesn't make sense economically, we would recommend filing separately because Bethany is an income source and her assets must be protected.
So I get it. So what's important here is what you're telling me is you got to analyze it to make the assessment rather than just say automatically, no, we're going to file married filing separate or we're going to file joint. You're looking at it to see which is the best move. That makes sense. And we won't know till we run the numbers is what we're saying.
We got to continue with the alternatives.
All right, let's talk about bankruptcy now because that's another thing that I hear in TV and so forth. In fact, Brian Small, who's normally on your show, and I see him, he's always talking about filing bankruptcy, and he has some rule he talks about. If I remember, the rule is the 3-year, 2-year, 240 rule.
That year...
It just so happens that I know about that rule in case you guys don't, so I can elaborate on it.
Well, that rule only applies to income taxes. Unfortunately, the business taxes, the trust fund taxes, are not going to be dischargeable in a bankruptcy.
All right, and then I guess my other problem is even on the 3-year rule says the taxes have to be 3 years old and the returns have to have been filed for more than 2 years.
That's correct.
I don't think I meet that 2-year problem.
Stop right there. You don't qualify under those rules.
Well, I could in 2 years.
Right, and there's some situations where we plan for a bankruptcy if we need to get to the 2-year rule and it otherwise makes sense. I'm not sure that's going to make sense in this situation based on, Bill, your current income.
Well, so I can't get rid of the payroll taxes in the bankruptcy, but if the income tax liability was big enough, the benefit of the bankruptcy would be I could get rid of the income tax if we waited the 2 years after we filed the returns and waited 2 years. That would work. I could also get rid of the claim, the $100,000 of tax debt from the credit cards, and I could get rid of the landlord lawsuit because that landlord lawsuit, Mr. Einstein, what's that going to cost me? I was paying $2,500 a month rent. The strip center is vacant. I got 3 more years left on the lease. I had 6 months that I didn't pay before I got evicted. Does he have a good? Do I have a defense to that claim at all?
The likelihood of a defense would depend on whether or not you think the landlord did or didn't do things they were supposed to. But more importantly, since we ripped up that deed, the landlord can't get to your 401k, and really, there's no asset the landlord could get to. So we give them a come to reality moment, and we settle that out for little to nothing. We don't waste it on attorney fees.
But in terms of and we also have
I think you misspoke. Not the 401k. You meant that because you ripped up the deed, they can't get to the equity in his home.
They can't get to either his 401k
right, they couldn't get to
or
that
to the equity in his home.
All right, so bankruptcy has potential here, but it only has potential if we waited the 2 years, and that would be an available tool to get rid of the income tax, not the payroll tax. It would have a side benefit of getting rid of the tax, the credit cards, and the landlord. We'll be back after the break and kind of wrap up where we're going.
Tax problems are major problems. Don't let the IRS levy your wages and seize your assets. There is a solution.
Worth Ave Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
If you're behind on your taxes and owe money to the IRS, call Fav Gross.
We've been solving tax problems for 32 years. We stop wage levies, resolve unfiled returns, and obtain the best possible settlements.
Call Fav Gross today, 888-235-HELP.
A lifetime of hard work. If you're approaching retirement and don't have the right plan in place, you can lose your home, your investments, and your savings. And you didn't come this far to lose everything. Putting a solid strategy in place with Samasco Law legally protects your assets as well as your wishes. Since a will doesn't cover you medically or financially, Samasco Law goes beyond ordinary asset management protection to safeguard everything you have.
How much can you afford to lose? Call Samasco Law today.
Is the debt piling up? Struggling to get by?
It's all about preserving future income. Bankruptcy is one option. When it's right, it's the least costly, most effective way to save your home, eliminate a second mortgage, and wipe out credit card debt. But you need to address the problem now.
We help people with bankruptcy. Call the experts.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
A lifetime of hard work. If you don't have the right plan in place, you can lose your home, your savings, and more. And you didn't come this far to lose everything. Samasco Law wants you to know that laws are changing. Today, the average cost of nursing home care is $85,000 a year. With proper planning, we can help protect your life savings and get you the Medicaid and nursing home benefits you deserve.
How much can you afford to lose? Call Samasco Law today.
Carrying too much debt? Resolve your debt. Call Thav Gross.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call Thav Gross. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP. Tax problems are major problems. Don't let the IRS levy your wages and seize your assets. There is a solution.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
If you're behind on your taxes and owe money to the IRS, call Thav Gross.
We've been solving tax problems for 32 years. We stop wage levies, resolve unfiled returns, and obtain the best possible settlements.
Call Thav Gross today, 888-235-HELP.
Welcome back. We're coming to the end of a second segment dealing with Bill and his relatively complex tax problem between payroll taxes, income taxes, a closed coffee shop, and his landscape business where he's got people he pays pays cash, people that are on payroll. He's not paid any payroll taxes. He hasn't filed any tax returns.
Ken, while it may be relatively complex, it is not uncommon. This is a typical scenario that we see every week.
Got it. Okay, I'm going to come right back to that. I want to do some quick announcements. We have our offices open in Flint. If anyone who needs to see Thav Gross in Flint, we have a Flint office. Just call 888-235-HELP. Remember to watch the TV version of Law Reality Sundays at 11 o'clock a.m. We have 2 seminars coming up. Wednesday, July 15th, Save Money Through Debt Elimination, covering all of the issues, solutions using bankruptcy, solutions outside of bankruptcy. The premise is if you minimize or get rid of your debt, you maximize your opportunity to save money for retirement. It's the long haul that we focus on. That's the goal, is to get to be retirement age and have more than Social Security to live on. And if you don't take steps to do that, it ain't going to happen. Seminar is 7 to 8:30, Wednesday, July 15th. It is free. Attendees get a free copy of my book, Dump Your Debt. You sign up for that, go to lawandreality.com, thavgross.com, or call 888-235-HELP. We have a senior law seminar on Wednesday, August 8th, 6:30 to 8, called Crossing 60, the estate and financial planning decisions you need to make. Featured speakers are myself and elder law expert Pat Samasco. We're going to walk through all the issues when you cross 60 that you need to start thinking and learning about. Social Security decisions, adjusting your financial goals for retirement, because at this point, your window of opportunity is narrowing. Planning for your parents. They have Medicaid issues, veterans attendance benefits if they need nursing care in and outside of a nursing home. For your children, you have to make sure what you have you leave to them, but they don't squander it by letting their creditors get to it or getting divorced and having half of it going to what becomes their ex-spouses. You sign up for the senior law seminar, same thing, lawandreality.com, or call 888-235-HELP. That is Wednesday, August 5th, 2015. Free reports are available on the Law and Reality website. And I want to thank our sponsors, Thav Gross and Samasco Law. All right, back to Bill and his tax problems. So I understand the issue on tax returns. We're going to get them filed. We're going to decide whether Bethany and I filed jointly or not. Bankruptcy could be a solution to solving the income tax liability, not the payroll tax liability. And it could get rid of the credit cards and it could get rid of the landlord, but I can't get rid of the tax debt unless I wait 2 years from the time I filed the returns, which haven't even been filed yet, and I need 3 years to lapse since the due date of the returns. So 2012 return would have been due on April 15th of 2013. So I have for 3 years on that for the 2012. I would have to wait until next year anyway, but I've got to wait 2 years anyhow because I haven't filed any of the returns. So how do I survive during this period? Jenny, what do I do? IRS says I file the returns. I owe them $300,000. I can't file bankruptcy even if I want to for 2 years. How do you keep them from grabbing all my money and putting me in jail?
Well, the first thing is
what about jail?
You filed your returns and you didn't evade the taxes. You just couldn't afford to pay them.
So Bethany goes to jail. I don't?
Yes. Sure. That's
Sorry, honey.
Okay. So what we
No
would,
jail.
So, there's some different things. It's going to be difficult because to get through 2 years, because one of the things that we can't do is file the typical hearings that we would file such as a collection due process hearing, because that will.
So what do you do?
Well, we would try to work out a payment plan.
With who?
With the revenue officer. Now, the payment plan, because they're going to look to your 401k, it's going to be difficult to get them to approve a payment plan. We could try a short-term payment plan that increases, because what they're going to want it to do is to pay off the total liability within the statute of limitations.
Are you usually able to arrive at a decent payment plan in this situation?
We usually are, but the 401k is going to be an issue that we're going to have to really tap dance around in this case. The fact is that it does take the IRS, it took them this long to find you, it does take them a long time to reach a resolution. So we'll probably be at least a year past filing, and we're still going to be trying to determine what to do.
But here's what I would do: is we would develop what we would think would be a reasonable and acceptable plan, and we're not going to wait 6 months or 3 months or 8 months with the IRS. We're going to do something that's palatable to us, and we may start making voluntary payments. And then when we are talking with the IRS over months and months, they look at it and they get used to this payment plan, and quite often we can get the revenue officer to go along with it, so we're taking a proactive step.
So it's kind of like selling the plan in advance by making the payments?
Used to it.
Well, it's not just that. It's because when you are the taxpayer that's complying and they have, 50 cases where the majority of them are not complying, you kind of go on the back burner, which means it gets us closer to that 2 years if we're planning on having to file bankruptcy for the income taxes.
Right. They don't look at us as a problem
And
file.
then if I get to
now, real quickly, Ken, I got to tell you how we deal with the landlord, because that's a problem.
You got 10 seconds to tell
Really
me about the
quickly.
landlord, because I got to tell you about the credit cards.
All I tell the landlord is, hey, you got a duty to mitigate. B, I can show you $300,000 of priority secured debt
my
with the
tax
IRS.
debt that I owe.
There's nothing there. Either you take the $5,000 that I borrow from the wife, or otherwise I'll see you at the deposition of the broker when we have to show that you're not mitigating your damages.
All right, so we've got leverage with the landlord that we can deal with because we don't have any money. The credit card, similarly, we can settle that credit card debt using debt resolution to take care of it. The biggest problem is the taxes, and on that one, although it's complicated, there's strategies to use. The important lesson here is that every problem has a solution if you face it and address it. The worst possible thing Bill could do is ignore the problem. That could even end up criminal. That's the one thing you can't do. You got to face the problems. We're the ones that will help you do it. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.